We're going to go to tutorial 1, random numbers. Well, whenever you see the word tutorial, that means I'm giving you the code. You're going to type it in, which is one of the ways to learn about programming, is type in and analyze the code as you're typing it, figure out what it's doing. So we're going to create, let's see, this one is called random numbers. There it is. So the first thing that I typed in is a comment saying what's going to happen next. One of the things that we use a lot in engineering and programming is we need to generate random numbers. So this is one way we can generate a real number, real meaning a decimal type number, in the range of 0 to 1. Well, let's see what that does. We do DISP, RAND, and we can at this point, don't have to finish the program, we can just run this little section and see what it does. There. Well, let's try running it again. Every time it's going to come up with something different. So the range 0 to 1 means it's not going to be 0, it's not going to be 1, it's going to be randomly some real number, decimal number in between. Okay, so what if we want random integers? Well, that would be nice. We use a lot of random integers in programming. So this time we're going to do a, random number in the range 0 to 100. So num equals rand times 100. Whoops. So we're doing a calculation first, and then we're displaying it, right? Display NUM. What is this? Oh, yeah. If you put a semicolon, it's telling me to put a semicolon at the end. I forgot to put that in. That way, if you just do a calculation in Matlab, it gives you the answer, and then we're displaying the answer, so it gives you the answer again. So it's common to put a colon, semicolon at the end of a line that's doing a calculation. So let's see what this does. Well, it's still not an integer yet, is it? It'd be nice to be able to do an integer, but we can see that we can get random numbers from 0 to 100. We can change that just by moving our decimal place back and forth with multiplying by various numbers. Well, that's okay. Now we can also do random numbers in a certain range. So what are all these little guys that I've been typing in here? This is a specific Matlab keyword operator. It does something. It generates a random number. This is a keyword in Matlab. It displays whatever is over here to the console. This is something I made up. This is what's called a variable. This is a storage place in memory to store the result of a calculation. So if I multiply a random number times 100, that calculation gets stored into this memory space, this variable. The memory space is named num, and then I can display it. I can also use this variable later on. All right, let's go to the next one. So we're going to create some more variables. We're going to have a low of 20, and we're going to have a high of 35. So we want a random number in that range. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to store it in the same, can we use the same variable again? Sure. It's called a variable because it varies, it changes. We can change it based on what we want to do. So we're going to do our rand function times, well, how do we make sure that we're having the right range? Well, we're going to subtract high from low, or the other way around, low from high. So that gives us our range of, say, what is it, 25? That gives us our range of 15. And if we add 15 to that, we get our range, 15. And if we add low to that, that moves it up to 20 to 35. Just a second, put my semicolon in there so it doesn't squeal at me. That's what that little yellow means. It means, oh, Matlab is saying, I don't like you, do the right thing. So this gives us our interval, right? If we take 20 from 35, that gives us 15. But then that would give us 0 to 15. And if we add 20 to it, that gives us 20 to 35. So we can adjust how our random numbers show up. Well, what we use quite often is integers. So we're going to, well, let's do it the same way we have been. Let's do a num equals randi. Oh, much nicer, isn't it? So we're going to do a random integer, and it's going to be between 0 and 100. It's going to be inclusive. Sorry, 1 to 100 inclusive. Oh, here I am with my semicolon again. Oh, it says saying up here I never did display my number. Not that that's saying, so I should display it. Otherwise, it's what's the point of calculating if you don't display the answer. All right, so we do display DSP and num again. Oh yeah, this is not going to work if I have DSPL. If you type something wrong, it'll give you a problem child. Let's run this section again. There. Every time I hit this, I'm going to get a different number, 1 to 100 inclusive, which means I can get 1, I can get 100. Now with rand I, we also have a range that we can do. So I'm going to do bracket 20, comma 35. That's a built-in ranging function. Oops, somehow I got a 1 in there. So that means that then it'll be inclusive, 20 to 35. It'll be somewhere in there. So if we run that, there it goes. We'll get 22. We'll get 35. See, we went up to the top, 34, 26. Oh, there it hit 20. All right, so the results that are showing in the tutorial are different than the results that I'm getting here. Now this would be a good thing to put in your Ninja notes, because being able to do random integers is pretty handy, and being able to do them in a range is pretty handy. So you want to keep track of some of these things. That's a good one to keep track of. All right, we're going to move on to the sine wave plot.